The long silence. For many years the galaxy burned with war. Great empires clashed across the stars. Fleets of fire and steel collided and planets were reduced to dust. Species fought for power, for survival, and for pride. But in the middle of this chaos there was one voice missing, one power that stayed silent: humanity. While others shed blood, humanity chose peace. Earth had ships, strong armies, and hidden weapons, but they never raised them. They watched from the shadows. They traded with both sides. They sent doctors to heal the wounded. They sent food to starving colonies, but they never fired a shot. To many aliens this was weakness. They laughed at Earth. They mocked humans as cowards. They said, "The humans fear true battle." Yet others whispered a different tale. Some said humanity was waiting. Some said Earth had a strength unseen, a storm hidden behind calm skies. But no one knew the truth. Generations passed, and the war of the galaxy continued. Millions died, and fleets were born and destroyed again and again. Through it all, Earth remained silent. The stars called it the long silence of humanity. Inside Earth cities, life was calm. Children played under blue skies, families grew in peace. The people did not know the horrors outside their home. Many believed silence was the right choice. No one wanted to lose sons and daughters to wars that were not theirs. Humanity had already bled too much in ancient wars on Earth. Now they wanted peace, but peace is fragile. It lives only if others respect it. And the galaxy did not one day far from Earth. A convoy of human transport ships moved through quiet space. These ships were not warships. They carried food, medicine, and families who wanted to start new lives on colonies. They had no heavy weapons, no fleet to guard them, only the flag of Earth painted on their hulls, a sign that said, "We are neutral." Yet the wrong eyes saw them. In the void, an alien fleet drifted. It belonged to a proud and reckless empire. They had been losing battles. Their pride was broken. They wanted revenge on someone weaker. They saw the human convoy, and in their arrogance they made a choice that would echo forever. Without warning, the alien fleet opened fire. Bright lances of energy cut through the darkness. Explosions shook the stars. Human ships burned. Families screamed. Children cried. Distress signals lit up every channel. "This is Earth Convoy 7. We are under attack." Repeat, "We are under attack." But there was no one near enough to save them. The aliens did not stop. They destroyed ship after ship. They laughed at human cries. To them, this was just a message. No one is safe. Not even the silent humans. In moments, the convoy was gone. Only wreckage floated in the dark, and silence returned. But this silence was different. On Earth, the signals were received. Commanders listened, leaders gathered, mothers wept, fathers clenched fists. The people of Earth, who had long lived in peace, now felt something rising inside them, a fire that had been waiting. In the great halls of Earth's Defense Command, the leaders played the final recordings, the voices of children cut off by fire, the desperate last words of captains begging for mercy, and then the sound of laughter from the alien fleet. Silence filled the chamber after the recordings. No one spoke, but every heart burned. For years, humanity had been called coward, but they endured it. For years, humanity had been pushed, but they remained calm. They wanted peace, but peace had been broken. A general rose. His voice was cold. "They fired the first shot. They ended the silence. Now they will face us." His words carried across the chamber, and no one argued. That night, across the cities of Earth, the news spread. Humanity had been attacked. Innocent lives had been taken. The silence that lasted for generations was shattered. People gathered in streets. Some cried, some raged, and all of them demanded the same thing: justice. The stars would never be the same again. The long silence of humanity was ending, and the galaxy did not yet understand what this meant. They thought humans were weak. They thought Earth had no will. They thought wrong. For in the silence, humanity had not been sleeping. They had been preparing. Deep in hidden docks lay warships never seen, weapons never used, and soldiers never called to battle. Humanity had waited, and now the time was near. The first shot had been fired, and though the galaxy did know the deadly mistake, the galaxy thought little of the attack. Alien empires had grown used to violence. Convoys were destroyed every day. To them it was nothing new. But to humanity this was no ordinary strike. It was the shattering of a promise of peace that had lasted for centuries. The enemy fleet that opened fire believed the humans would bow their heads. They believed Earth would mourn quietly and then return to silence. They believed wrong. In the wreckage of the destroyed convoy, a single beacon still blinked, faint and weak, drifting among the broken hulls. It carried the final message of a captain. His voice was rough with smoke, his words broken by static. If anyone hears this, tell Earth. They chose us because we were unarmed. They think we are weak. Do not let them laugh at us, and then the signal ended in fire. That message spread across human space faster than light. Soldiers listened in their barracks. Miners on distant colonies paused their work. Teachers showed it in schools, and children who never knew war stared at the faces of the dead. Anger filled hearts that once only wanted peace. The alien fleet, proud of their cruelty, boasted of their victory. Their commanders laughed in halls of power. They claimed, "We destroyed human ships." And they did nothing. Earth will remain silent forever. They believed they had humiliated humanity, but in truth they had written their own death. On Earth the council gathered again, their chamber filled with silence thicker than stone. One by one the leaders spoke, not with fear but with fire. "For too long we let them call us coward," said one. "For too long we hid our strength," said another. Now the mask must fall. Behind the great cities of Earth, hidden deep beneath oceans in dark craters of the moon, and inside asteroids hollowed by ancient hands, there slept war machines, dreadnoughts forged in silence, fleets cloaked in shadows, weapons crafted in secret, all of them waiting, not for conquest but for survival. These ships were never used before because humanity prayed they never would be. But the time of prayer was over. The time of steel had come. A signal was sent across the black armories of humanity. Awaken. And for the first time in centuries, the sleeping war machines roared alive. Massive engines lit, shields hummed, cannons long silent unlocked. Earth's sky glowed as launch bays opened. Soldiers climbed into armor. Pilots kissed loved ones and walked toward ships they were born to fly. The enemy fleet, still mocking, still laughing, had no idea. They thought the humans too soft, too slow. But in truth, humanity had already moved. On the edge of known space, hidden behind the shadow of a red star, the first wave of human warships assembled, their hulls black as night, their weapons glowing with silent fire. At the center stood the flagship, a giant vessel older than most alien empires. Its name whispered only in secret, Erebus. A ship built not for defense but for the end of wars. The admiral of the fleet stood on its bridge, his eyes cold, his voice steady. The time for silence is done. They drew first blood. Now we will remind the galaxy who we are. His words echoed like thunder. The plan was simple, not defense but punishment, not warning but vengeance. The alien fleet that fired the first shot would be the first to vanish, and their empire would learn what it meant to awaken a sleeping giant. Meanwhile, the galaxy watched with half-interest. They believed Earth would complain, perhaps send envoys, maybe threaten trade, but they did not believe Earth had the will to strike. After all, silence had lasted for so long. Then the silence broke. From the dark void, the human fleet appeared. Thousands of ships sliding out of shadow. Their formation perfect, their speed relentless. The alien fleet, drunk with arrogance, laughed when they saw the first sensor blips. But their laughter ended when the blips grew into waves, and the waves became a storm. In the enemy command ship, an officer shouted in panic, "It cannot be. These are human ships, so many. Where did they come from?" But it was already too late. The sky lit with fire, the first human strike unleashed. Beams of energy cut through alien hulls. Torpedoes locked onto targets and rail cannons roared. In the first minute, 5 alien ships were gone. In the second minute, 10 more followed. By the third minute, the fleet was broken. The aliens had made the deadliest mistake. They thought silence meant weakness. They thought peace meant fear. But they learned too late that silence was only patience. From the bridge of Erebus, the admiral spoke once more. His words carried on every frequency, so the galaxy could hear. "We did not want this war, but you brought it to us, and now you will see the price." Across the stars that message traveled. Empires that once mocked humanity fell silent. Rulers who laughed now trembled, for they realized a truth they never wanted to face. Humanity had stayed out of the war, but now they were in it. And nothing could stop what was coming. Know it yet, they had just awoken the storm. The Council of Earth, the alien fleet, lay in ruins. Their wreckage scattered across the cold void. Human warships pulled back into formation. Silent and steady, the galaxy watched in shock. They had never seen such speed, such power, such precision. But for Earth, this was only the beginning. On the blue planet, deep beneath the mountains in the fortified halls of Earth's Defense Command, the Council of Earth gathered. The chamber was vast, its walls lined with banners of ancient victories, its floor carved with symbols of old wars. Men and women from every nation sat in silence, their faces grim, their hearts burning. At the head of the chamber stood Commander Arik, an old soldier with eyes like iron. His voice was calm yet carried the weight of centuries. For generations we kept the peace. For centuries we stayed out of the wars of the stars. But now our people have been slaughtered. Our silence has been broken, and the galaxy has seen our answer, he said, his words echoing across the stone chamber. The counselors shifted in their seats, some still shaken, some afraid, others filled with fire. One elder spoke, her voice trembling. If we continue, the galaxy will unite against us. They will call us conquerors. They will call us monsters, another rose, his fist striking the table. They already call us cowards. They already call us weak. Enough of silence. Enough of shame. If we stop now, our dead will be forgotten. If we rise, our enemies will never forget. Murmurs filled the chamber. The weight of choice pressed heavy on every shoulder. Humanity had revealed its strength, but now the question stood clear. Should they return to silence, or should they take the path of war? Arik looked at them all, his face carved with scars of battles long past. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to destroy, but we will never again let the galaxy believe we are weak. They drew first blood. We will show them what it means to strike Earth, he declared. The chamber roared with voices, some agreeing, some fearful, some demanding more. One counselor shouted, "Do we have the strength to fight all of them? The empires are many. Their fleets are endless." Arik's eyes burned as he answered, "Strength is not in numbers, it is in will, and our will is unbroken." A great silence followed. Then slowly, one by one, the counselors rose to their feet. Each voice added to the decision. Each hand lifted in agreement. The vote was taken, and the result was clear. Humanity would no longer stand aside. The silence was over. Earth was at war. Across the chamber, a massive screen lit up. Images of fleets hidden across the solar system flashed. Carriers rising from the oceans. Warships unfolding from asteroids. Soldiers training in secret colonies. These were the weapons Earth never showed. The strength that had been hidden while others mocked them. An admiral stepped forward, his uniform dark as night. "The Black Armada is ready," he said simply, and the chamber shuddered at his words. The council gave their command and orders spread across the stars. Codes were unlocked, ships were released, soldiers received their summons. The people of Earth were no longer just citizens. They were the hands of a new power rising. But even as the council decided, whispers spread beyond Earth. Spies carried the news to alien empires. Leaders of distant worlds gathered in panic. One asked, "If humans have kept such fleets hidden, what else have they hidden?" Another said, "They will come for us all." Fear spread like wildfire. In the chamber, Commander Arik spoke again. "We will not strike blindly. We will not become what they are. But the enemy who spilled our blood will face us, and the galaxy will know this truth. Humanity was never silent because of fear. We were silent because of choice." His voice was steady, every word burning into the memory of those who heard. Outside, in the skies of Earth, people gathered in the millions. They watched as the first warships rose through the clouds, their hulls glowing, their engines rumbling like thunder. The silence that once defined Earth was replaced by a storm born of fire and steel. Children who once laughed at peace now looked to the skies with wide eyes. Mothers held their children close, fathers raised their fists. The people were afraid, but they were also proud. The galaxy had struck their families, and now humanity would strike back. Above them, the Black Armada moved, ship after ship climbing into the void, each one carrying the fury of Earth, each one a promise to the stars. And in the council chamber, as the fleets departed, Arik whispered to himself, his voice low but sharp as a blade, "They made the deadliest mistake, and now the galaxy will pay for it." The Black Armada awakens. The decision of the council spread across Earth like fire. The people had spoken. The leaders had chosen. Humanity would rise, and the galaxy would remember the day the silence ended. In hidden docks beneath oceans, waters boiled as massive hangar doors opened. Titanic shapes moved upward, warships that had been sleeping for decades, their hulls black as midnight, their engines humming with ancient power. One by one they rose through the deep blue, breaking the waves, towering above the seas. The Black Armada was awakening. On the far side of the moon, in caverns carved by machines long ago, rows of battlecruisers ignited, their lights burning bright against the cold rock. Soldiers saluted as the engines thundered. The dust of centuries shook loose from the ceilings. and the cavern rumbled like the heart of a giant beast. In the asteroid belt, shadows shifted. Giant stones moved, revealing secret hangars. From within poured sleek warships, their cannons glinting, their shields pulsing, ships built for silence and death, hidden among rocks until this moment. The people of Earth watched the skies, their eyes wide. Families gathered on rooftops and mountains. They saw the dark silhouettes climbing upward, hundreds then thousands. The sky became filled with wings of steel. The air thundered with the roar of engines. The ground trembled beneath their ascent. Children pointed and shouted, "Look, the guardians of Earth." Elders wept, some from pride, some from fear, but all understood. The age of silence was over. On board the flagship Erebus, Admiral Kalen stood at the command deck, his gaze fixed on the stars. His crew worked in perfect silence. Each man and woman knew the weight of this moment. We waited too long. We gave them peace. They mistook it for weakness. Now they will see what patience has forged, Kalen said, his voice cold and steady. The Black Armada was not just ships. It was the will of humanity forged into steel. Every ship carried history. Every cannon carried vengeance. Every hull bore the mark of sacrifice. Across the galaxy, alien eyes widened in disbelief. Reports poured into enemy councils. The humans are moving fleets, not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands, commanders stammered. Rulers shouted in panic. Spies who once called humanity weak now trembled as they told the truth. In the throne room of the empire that had fired the first shot, the arrogant ruler slammed his fist on the armrest. Impossible, they hid all this. Humans cannot command such power. But the truth could not be denied. Their mistake had woken the storm. Back in Earth's command chambers, holograms of the Armada filled the air. Generals studied their positions. Scientists monitored weapon systems, and leaders issued orders, no hesitation, no mercy. "The enemy must learn," said Commander Auric, his voice heavy as iron. The Armada moved in silence, its ships black against the void. They carried no banners, no cries of war, only the steady hum of engines and the quiet vow of revenge. The first destination was clear. The empire that destroyed the human convoy would face the Armada's wrath. Their fleets were still celebrating their so-called victory, unaware of the storm racing toward them. Pilots inside cockpits adjusted controls. Soldiers locked armor in place. Captains whispered final words to crews. "Stand firm, remember our dead. Remember why we rise." And each word hardened the hearts of those who heard. The Erebus led the fleet. A shadow among shadows, a titan among titans. Its weapons charged, its shields ready. It was not only a ship, it was a symbol. The promise that humanity would never again be mocked. As the Black Armada left the solar system, humanity crossed a line that could never be undone. They were no longer the silent observers of the galaxy. They were warriors reborn, their strength undeniable, their will unshakable. In the dark of space, as millions watched through hidden eyes, the Armada moved like a storm without end. And whispers spread across alien worlds. "The humans are coming." Some spoke with fear, some with awe, but all with certainty. The galaxy had seen many wars, many empires rise and fall, but none had seen what it meant when Earth rose in anger. None had seen the fury of a people who endured insult after insult, silence after silence, until the wrong fleet made the wrong choice. Now the storm had been unleashed, the Black Armada had awakened, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. First strike, the Black Armada crossed the stars in silence. Their engines whispered like thunder behind closed walls. Their cannons glowed but did not fire. Every ship moved as one, united in purpose. The galaxy trembled as the storm approached. The empire that had fired on the human convoy still celebrated. Their leaders feasted in golden halls. Their generals boasted of their victory. "The humans are weak, they are broken, they will never rise," they said. Laughter echoed through their palaces, but outside their borders their fleets were blind, their eyes fixed on the wrong direction. At the edge of their territory, alarms began to sound. Faint signals caught by outposts, first dismissed as errors, then confirmed with terror. "Unknown fleet detected. Massive formation inbound." Voices shook over comms. Reports arrived too late. By the time the warning reached the Empire's council, the Black Armada was already at their gates. From the bridge of the Erebus, Admiral Kalen stood still, his eyes like steel, his hands behind his back, his voice calm as he gave the order. "No mercy, no hesitation, this is for our dead." Fire. The void erupted. Beams of light cut across space, heavy cannons roared, missiles streaked toward enemy lines. The first alien patrol vanished in fire before they could even send a proper warning. Entire cruisers were torn apart in seconds. The human fleet moved like a blade through soft flesh. Precise, merciless, unstoppable. The alien commanders panicked. Form lines, they screamed. Their fleets scrambled, ships twisted and broke formation. Their pride collapsed as fear took hold. But the humans did not pause. Wave after wave of fire crushed them. Shields shattered, hulls cracked. Crews screamed as their ships disintegrated into burning debris. The galaxy had seen wars before, but never like this, never with such speed, never with such silence. Every human strike was calculated, every volley exact. It was not chaos, it was judgment. On one alien battleship, a young officer cried out, "They fight like machines, they give no warning." No chance. And then the ship exploded, its wreckage joining the graveyard of its brothers. Within minutes, the Empire's proud fleet, once feared across the stars, was broken, their flagships disabled, their carriers burning, their generals silenced. The Black Armada cut through them as if they were nothing. Across the galaxy, spies sent reports, traitors whispered in panic. The humans destroyed an entire fleet in minutes, one said. No, not just destroyed, erased, said another. Fear spread faster than fire. On Earth, families gathered around screens. They watched transmissions of glowing wreckage drifting in the void. They heard the voice of Admiral Kalen broadcast to all human colonies. The first strike is done, we have answered their fire. We are no longer silent. His words were heavy yet calm, a promise to all. But the war was not only about ships and fleets, it was about fear. The empire that had mocked humanity now felt dread seep into every corner. Their leaders trembled in their thrones. Their subjects whispered in streets. What will the humans do next? Will they come for us all? Inside the shattered remains of the enemy fleet, a single survivor ship tried to flee, its captain desperate, sending messages to anyone who would listen. The humans are not weak. The humans are death, they came like shadows. They struck like gods, warned the galaxy, warned them. His words traveled far before his ship was caught in a final blast. The Erebus stood at the heart of the battlefield, surrounded by the victorious Armada. Silence filled the bridge after the last alien ship fell. Admiral Kalen finally spoke, his voice like thunder rolling through the void. Let this be the first lesson. Earth is not weak. Earth is not afraid. Strike us and we will strike back tenfold. His words were sent across open frequencies. Carried into every empire's ears, the galaxy froze. Rulers leaned forward on their thrones. Generals clenched fists. Traitors abandoned roots, all wondering the same question. If this is their first strike, what will come next? On Earth, the people who once lived in silence now cheered. They mourned their dead, but they also felt pride for the first time in generations. They saw the Black Armada not only as weapons, but as guardians, protectors who would never again allow humanity to be mocked or slaughtered. Yet even as the victory burned bright deep inside the council chambers of Earth, leaders knew this was only the beginning. Striking once would not end the war. The empires would rally. Fear would turn into rage, and the galaxy would come for them. But Admiral Kalen, standing tall on the bridge of the Erebus, did not fear. His eyes remained fixed on the stars ahead. Let them come, he whispered. We waited in silence for centuries. Now they will hear our voice, and so the first strike ended, not as a conclusion but as a signal, a message written in fire across the void. Humanity was no longer the silent watcher. They were the storm, and the storm had only begun. The galaxy trembles. News of the battle spread like wildfire, carried by traitors, spies, and broken signals from dying fleets. In every corner of the galaxy, whispers grew into fear. The humans struck back, some said. No, they did more than that. They erased a fleet, others replied. Whole empires began to tremble. In shining capitals where alien rulers sat on golden thrones, the councils gathered. Reports filled the air. Holograms of wreckage floated above war tables. Voices shouted over one another, impossible. How can they destroy so much so fast? Where did they hide such ships? How long have they been preparing? The galaxy that once laughed at humanity now spoke in fear. The empire that had fired the first shot was broken. Their fleets in ruins, their borders shattered. Their leaders begged allies for help, but no one came, for every ally feared the same thing. If they helped, they would be next in secret halls of power. Smaller empires whispered among themselves. If humanity had such strength all along, why did they wait? What else are they hiding? The silence of Earth was now seen in a new light. It was not cowardice, it was patience, and patience frightened them more than any weapon. Across marketplaces on neutral worlds, traders argued. Humans were never weak, they were wise. They waited until they were ready. Another spat in fear. No, they are monsters. They could have stopped the war years ago, but chose not to. Now they come for us all. Meanwhile on Earth, the people who once lived quiet lives now lived with pride. They saw their fleets rise, their banners carried through the stars. They buried their dead, but they raised their heads high. Children in school studied history not as victims but as warriors. Songs were written, stories told. The day the silence ended became the start of a new legend. But legends also create enemies. In the distant reaches of space, the great alliance of seven, the most powerful empires still standing, gathered in one colossal chamber. Their leaders stared at the images of human ships tearing through fleets. Their voices shook. If we let them grow, none of us will stand against them. We must unite, or we will fall. Yet even in fear, they argued, some demanded war at once. Others demanded treaties. A few dared to whisper the truth. Perhaps it is already too late. Back on the flagship Erebus, Admiral Kalen listened to reports of panic spreading across the stars. His officers smiled with pride, but Kalen's face was hard. Do not mistake their fear for surrender, he warned. Fear makes enemies desperate, and desperation makes them dangerous. The Council on Earth debated their next move. Some leaders urged restraint. We have made our point. Let us stop here. Others argued for strength. If we stop, they will come back. We must break them before they rise against us. Commander Arik stood and raised his hand for silence. His voice cut through the chamber. We did not choose this war. It was forced on us. But now that we are in it, we must see it through. The galaxy will test us. We must not falter. His words carried. And the decision was sealed. Humanity would not back down. Across alien space, armies prepared, fleets mobilized. Secret weapons were unlocked. But none could escape the shadow of fear. For each ruler remembered the words broadcast from the Erebus. Strike us and we will strike back tenfold. They believed those words. And they trembled. Even neutral empires began to waver. Some sent hidden envoys to Earth, offering alliances, trade, or tribute, they whispered. Better to stand with the storm than be swept away by it. Humanity's voice was growing louder, their influence spreading faster than their fleets. On distant colonies, alien children asked their parents, "Are the humans really so strong?" And the parents, unable to hide their fear, could only answer, "Stronger than we imagined." But among the shadows, darker plans began. Assassins were sent, spies infiltrated, enemies conspired. The galaxy was afraid. But fear breeds both submission and resistance. Some would kneel, but others would rise in defiance. On the bridge of the Erebus, Admiral Kalen looked out at the stars. His officers awaited his next command. They tremble now, he said quietly. But trembling will not last. Soon they will come for us all, and when they do, we will be ready. The galaxy trembled, the galaxy whispered. But the storm of Earth did not fade, it only grew, waiting for the moment when fear would turn into fire. The new dawn, the galaxy trembled, but fear alone could not last. Empires stirred in silence, alliances formed in shadows, fleets gathered in distant corners of space. They all knew humanity had risen, and they all knew the storm was only beginning. On Earth, the people no longer lived in quiet ignorance. The silence that had once defined them was gone. Streets that once echoed with laughter now rang with chants. Never again, never again. Families raised their heads with pride, soldiers walked with honor. Children dreamed not of hiding, but of flying among the stars as defenders of Earth. In the council chambers beneath the mountains, the leaders gathered once more. This time there was no debate. The choice was clear. Humanity had taken its first step into the war of the galaxy. Now they must decide how to hold their place. Commander Arik stood tall, his voice heavy. We have shown them our strength, but strength alone will not keep us safe. The galaxy will come. They will unite against us. They will test us, and we must be ready. Not just with weapons, but with unity. His words carved into the hearts of those listening. Admiral Kalen spoke from the Erebus, his face projected across the chamber. We cannot hide again, the silence is over. Every empire watches us, every ruler fears us. This is our dawn, we must embrace it, for if we falter now, all our dead will be forgotten. The council voted not for silence, not for retreat, but for a future forged in steel. Humanity would stand, not as shadows, not as cowards, but as a power among the stars. The Black Armada would remain awake, and Earth's banner would fly in every corner of human space. Across alien worlds, whispers of fear turned into whispers of awe. Some called humans monsters. Others called them saviors, but none dared to call them weak. The galaxy had seen their fury, and none would ever forget. The empire that had fired the first shot lay broken. Their fleets burned, their worlds trembling, their leaders begging for mercy that would never come. Their fall became a warning etched into history, the message clear: strike Earth, and you will be destroyed. Yet even as the smoke of victory filled the stars, humanity looked forward, for this was not the end. It was the beginning, the dawn of a new age, an age where humanity would no longer be silent, no longer be mocked but feared and respected. On the decks of the Erebus, Admiral Kalen stood with his crew. He looked out at the endless night. The stars stretched before him like a sea without end. "We are awake now," he said softly, his voice steady, "and the galaxy will never be the same." His words became legend, carried across colonies, written into songs, whispered in the training halls of young soldiers. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would tremble with every step they took. In distant worlds, alien children asked, "Who are the humans?" And the answer came, not as mockery, not as laughter, but as fear and respect. They are the storm that waited in silence. They are the fire that burned when struck. They are the voice that rose when mocked. The black armada spread across the stars, patrolling, guarding, striking when needed. Humanity no longer reacted, they acted, every move calculated, every strike decisive. They were not conquerors, but they would never again be victims on Earth. As the sun rose over mountains and oceans, people looked to the sky and saw more than just stars. They saw their destiny, their future, their pride. The new dawn had begun, and though the galaxy whispered of war, though enemies plotted in silence, though allies trembled in uncertainty, one truth could not be denied: humanity had entered the war, and the war would never be the same. For the long silence was over, and the new dawn had come.